Hello everyone, Seraphin here. Welcome to a new series. So I decided we had enough of a break, I think, with the long form formulaic stuff, and we're gonna get back into the long form formulaic stuff. It's actually some of my favorite stuff. So I hope you all enjoyed our little side escapade with Mega Man, but we're gonna get back into another main series game that's gonna take us probably quite a while to get through. Those of you who don't know what this is just by looking at it, you are wrong, and I feel very sorry for your childhood. That being said, this is a series that I have spent, at this point, the vast majority of my life spending a lot of time with. And a lot of people, I think, are of the opinion that, it's a children's game, it's cartoony, it's goofy, it's weird, adults shouldn't play it, and I am not of that opinion at all. In fact, the majority of people that I see that still play this series are adults. Probably because we all grew up with it as kids. Anyway, we're talking about Pokemon, of course. And I'm sorry if my pronunciation of the word Pokemon offends you. I know that's the official pronunciation, I just call it Pokemon because I am lazy and don't care. At any rate, we are getting into a remake of my favorite Pokemon games, that of course being Gold and Silver, which are, in my opinion, the best ones. So this is a remake for Silver on the original DS, not the 3DS. And the first things first is it's giving us this little stupid information window. I don't need any information. I'm smart, and I understand how to Pokemon, so we're going to skip that. The sun is descending in the sky. So, strangely enough, I am emulating this, by the way, I'm going to go out and get the disclaimer out of the way that I do own this physical cartridge, so no problems there. But what's strange is when I was setting this up, I was wondering how it was going to handle the time, because the way that the clock in these games works is by keeping track of the time on the 3DS console, or the DS console, not the 3DS. And I was like, well, how in the world are they going to do that? Because I don't have the ability to set that outside of the game, and it just runs off what appears to be my system clock, which is pretty nifty if you ask me. Anyway, this is Professor Oak. Everybody who's ever played Pokemon knows who Professor Oak is. Again, if you don't, you're wrong. That's just my opinion at any rate. So, Professor Oak is telling us that this world that we're going to be inhabiting shortly is filled with Pokemon, because of course it is. That there is a Marill. So, what is Gold and Silver? So, Gold and Silver were the second generation of Pokemon games. They came out, I think, in either late 1999 or early 2000. When I say second generation, they were the second batch of Pokemon to be released beyond the original 151. And arguably, Generation 2 is my favorite, only because not only does it intermingle appropriately with Generation 1, but adds a lot of new and interesting creatures that are not, in my opinion, just bland and stupid. So here, Professor Oak is asking us, are we a boy or are we a girl? The fact that he can't tell is pretty strange to me, but, maybe we're like androgynous looking, I have no idea. Neither of these people, by the way, look androgynous at all. I guess the case could be made that maybe the boy does, but I don't know. At any rate, we are a boy, strangely enough. This is also one of my favorite player character designs in the Pokemon series. Yes, I'm a boy, by the way. This is actually funny because I've modeled my Pokemon Go character model to have all the Johto gear, just because I'm a massive nerd for this particular franchise. So I'm gonna go ahead and punch in my name here. Strangely enough, there was a time when I thought having your name in all caps was dumb, but I've since come to, I guess, renege on that particular mindset. Everybody who's important has a fully capitalized name, so we're just gonna go with that. I'm not gonna do something stupid where my name is like, making a pun of all the item pickups and whatnot. I've seen a lot of people who play Pokemon on the online do a lot of that funny stuff, but I'm not one of those people, so. Not that I don't think it's entertaining, but personally, I'm not going to do that. So at any rate, what I'm going to do with this playthrough, it's going to be kind of normal and boring, and I'm sorry if that's not what you wanted to see. If you wanted to see something like a Nuzlocke or a randomizer or no evolutions run, I'm not doing any of that, so apologies if that's what you're looking for. You're going to have to find it somewhere else. Just reading a message from Lyra, which I don't really understand why I bothered to, because it's kind of pointless. At any rate, so this is going to be a pretty normal playthrough. However, I'm going to make it on with the stipulation that I will be attempting to use Pokemon that I have not actually trained before. So it's not going to be the whole, I'm just going to pick Totodile and go Rage mode and just kill everything, because Totodile is the best starter in Gen 2. There is no question of that. But that being said, I'm going to be picking, probably going to be Chikorita, going to be honest, because I don't tend to play Chikorita very much or train Chikorita very much. In fact, I don't ever think I've completed any of these Gen 2 games with Chikorita as my starter, so we're going to do that. Also because it pays to have a decent Grass-type Pokemon early on, just because Grass-type is one of those ones that's kind of reviled for having a lot of weaknesses, and, you know, it does, but it's also got a lot of really nice things going for it. It resists ground, that's a big one. It resists electricity. Those are two of the big ones I can think of. Ground is a very prevalent type, especially in the later generations. So, and quite honestly, I like the Grass-type starters. In fact, I think when I think about my favorite starters across all the different generations, I think Grass most often is my favorite type of the starters. Bulbasaur, certainly in Gen 1. Gen 4, definitely Torterra. Gen 6, definitely Chespin. Gen 7, definitely Rowlet. I guess it's 4. There's 4, 7, so that's still the majority. And if it's, generally speaking, if it's not Grass, it's Fire. I love Fire types. The only game where I think the Water type starter is the best is this one, because Totodile is amazing. Again, but however, I will not be using Totodile, so I don't think I'm going to bother going through and talking to every single last person in town, just because that's a big waste of my time. What I'm going to show you guys, however, is this guy hiding behind the lab here. Well, what are you staring at? You're just kind of poking into the window like a creep, but anyway. So our mom asked us to go visit Professor Elm. Let's go do that. Again, to those of you who have never played a main series Pokemon game, I don't know how you spent your childhood. I'm very sorry. But these are very entertaining games. I discount the notion that they're exclusively for children. Yes, I did start playing this series when I was very young, but as I've grown older and they've added more mechanics and more features and that kind of stuff, it's aged very well, I think. That being said, I'm not the biggest fan of the latest generation, Gen 7, Sun and Moon and whatnot. I beat them, but not my favorite. I think the Pokemon series had something of a renaissance with X and Y in Gen 6. I think that was a very good return to form. It just felt like a classic Pokemon game again. And I was very much a fan of X and Y. And, you know, even even Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire were very good. I never actually played the original Ruby and Sapphire. I never had the console with which to do it, so I kind of skipped those ones. But that being said, the remakes were quite good, and it used the same engine as X and Y, so that was a plus. This one is this technically is Generation 4 that we're playing through right now. Gold and Silver were Generation 2, but they were remade on the DS after Diamond and Pearl and Platinum came out, which were the first of the Gen 4 ones. So it is possible we will run into some Gen 3 or even Gen 4 Pokemon. I don't think that's likely to happen until after the Elite Four has been defeated, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So I'm going to go and take a look at what's in these Pokeballs. Well, I clicked on Chikorita first, so we're just going to grab that one. And like I said, I think I'm just going to go right with Chikorita here. Well, Chikorita looks a little odd on the... I don't know. So this is one of the ones that's very unique in that the Pokemon that is your front runner in your party will follow you around outside of a Pokeball. I don't think you see that as a main feature in any other Pokemon game, and I don't know why they did away with that. I think it's really neat. Some of them look really freaking cool. At any rate, I have a hard time coming up with nicknames for people, so I'm just going to leave them as basic name for now. I might change it later just for some, you know, make it stand out a little more, but right now I can't think of anything good. Maybe I'll come up with something later. There is an opportunity later on when you get to change Pokemon nicknames, so it's not like it's permanent or anything. Alright, so we have our starter Pokemon, and Professor Elm is like, here, you can come heal if you need to, right over here. So he's sending us to go find someone who is very originally named Mr. Pokemon. He lives past Cherry Grove City. Well, that'll be fun, I guess. And here we have this guy stopping us from leaving. He wants us to have these potions. Delightful. Potions are always fun. So potions, if you don't already are not already, they're healing sprays that I think they restore 20 hit points per use. Speaking of Pokemon, why don't we take a look at our starter here real quick, just because I'm curious. So Chikorita is largely regarded as like a girly Pokemon, and yet the gender ratio for it is largely male. I think it's like 82.5% male. Like 7 and 8 are male. So I don't know why they make it look so girly. At any rate, a Brave Nature, I want to say that is attack up and speed down. So I'm going to get a little bit into the theory. I was right. So this is one of the nice ones that actually tells you what the Bloody Nature is. I think they started doing it with this game, and it maintained that as a feature from then on. So our Chikorita has more attack than normal. That's kind of nice. A lot of Chikorita's abilities will be physical-oriented early on. Something, things like Vine Whip and Razor Leaf and Body Slam, that kind of deal. And then its speed already wasn't terribly impressive, and that just the fact that that's dropped is not terribly offensive to me. So I think we're going to be in good shape. Obviously, I can't tell IVs or anything. You don't get to see those until... In fact, I still don't think you can see those, even in the current generation games. They still don't want you to see those, for whatever reason. I know I'm getting into a lot of the deep stuff, so I'm going to try to explain as best I can from a perspective of people who may not have played this game or played any of these games, really. Just for the 3 of you out there that have never played a main series Pokemon game. So the gist of these games, and this is Lyra that I'm talking to, that's the person I got that email from. She's just a childhood friend, I guess, who's got a Meryl and is annoying. The gist of these games is, you start out in this tiny little town. In this case, we are in New Bark Town. In the original Red and Blue, it was Pallet Town. And in said town lives a Pokemon professor named after a tree. In the first generation games, it was Professor Oak. In this one, it's Professor Elm, so on and so forth. That creepy dude is still there, but that's alright, we're moving on. You start your journey in this little town, and you get sent out to more or less explore the world. Explore the area around you, because that's typically what happens is little 10-year-old girls, or 10-year-old boys leave home and go adventuring on their own. Oh, I don't have my Pokegear yet. Let's go home and grab that real quick. So we got to talk to our mom. That's the other thing too, is you play generally as a tiny child, get sent out into the world by themselves with their Pokemon. In some of the later entries, the characters you play as are a bit more grown up, but you're generally still at most a teenager. You're not like an adult player character playing these games. I think that's where a lot of the stigma that these are kids games comes from. But I mean, there's a lot of mature themes in Pokemon too that I think a lot of people miss out on, and I'm not talking like violence or nudity or any of that kind of. I just mean like very grown-up things that make you think, kind of deal. Team Plasma is a really big example of that in Black and White. They're basically Pokemon PETA. They're very much against the unethical treatment of Pokemon and don't think they should be used for battle. They don't think they should be held in Pokeballs, that kind of deal. So that's a very deep theme to go on for a kids game. And there's other examples besides that. I'm having a hard time thinking of some right now, but at any rate, the Pokegear, yes, I know how to use Pokegear. The Pokegear is basically a cell phone / watch. It goes on your wrist. It was a big deal back in the day in Gold and Silver, the original. Being able to make phone calls was pretty interesting. In fact, why don't I show that off real quick, just for kicks and grins here. So you'll see it's got the watch on it. You can see what time I'm recording this, which, it's a little late in the evening, but I guess that's super late. On the left side there, and on the right side is our phone call list. And right now, all we have in there is Mom. And we will periodically be able to acquire phone numbers from people. And sometimes they will randomly call you and, usually tell you useless stuff. Sometimes they will challenge you to battles if they're their trainers. Sometimes they'll tell you about some goodies that they found they want you to have. Very rarely. Professor Elm looks like he forgot something. I don't know what he forgot. Oh, he's going to give me his phone number, probably. Yep. So we can call Professor Elm if anything comes up. He'll usually be the one calling us. In fact, he just said he would. There's very little reason to call Professor Elm besides that. Your mom, if you call her, will tell you how much money you have. So a feature of this is when you earn prize money from battles or just from walking around, your mom will, you have the option to have your mom save it for you. And she'll occasionally buy stuff with your money. Which sounds bad, but at the same time, there's some really neat stuff you can only get from your mom buying it for you, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but I apologize, by the way, if the picture quality on this emulator is a little grainy. It's a result of the emulation not being perfect, I imagine. I'm hoping it doesn't play a big role in the quality of this recording. I don't think it will, but at any rate, we're just kind of walking around. So the way that the maps are generally divided up in Pokemon games is you've got the start of the little town, you've got, you know, major cities and smaller cities between each of them, and there's routes that connect all of them, and in these routes out in the wild is generally wild Pokemon, which we've encountered right here. This is a Pidgey. If you don't know what a Pidgey is, I'm very sorry. At any rate, we don't have Pokeballs just yet, so we actually can't capture anything. That's typically what they do in these games. I don't know why they do that. Oh, geez, a critical hit. Alright, fun. I don't know why they don't let you catch things right away. They decide to make you wait for a little bit before you get Pokeballs. But we're going to take down, hopefully take down him before he takes me down, this Pidgey here. We're probably going to need to heal afterwards because he... Oh, never mind, he missed. We might be okay until we get to Cherry Grove. So, the nice thing about these games is they're a little, I'm not going to say noob friendly because that's the wrong term, but they're very forgiving. There's no, like, permanent death feature. If your Pokemon faint in battle, you can just revive them for free in a Pokemon Center. If, for some reason, all of your Pokemon in your party end up getting fainted, you just, you know, you rush to the hospital and you get them taken care of and it's fine. I think you lose half your money if that happens. It's incredibly rare that you will end up losing your entire party. It generally only happens early on when you don't have as much of a party to lose. In this, like, for example, when I only have Chikorita here. The Sentret probably isn't going to do a whole heck of a lot. Well, I stand corrected. He did a little more than I thought he was going to. As long as he doesn't crit me, I'll be fine. Alright, so I'm going to pop up that potion that I got real quick, just because I don't want to die already. It's pretty sad, actually. Level 4 Pidgey kind of messed me up a little bit. At any rate, so the way I'm remiss and sorry for not explaining how the battle system works here. So what you're seeing here right now is we're in a Pokemon battle in the wild. If it were against a trainer, first of all, the music would be different, but second of all, it's generally a lot more difficult against the trainer battle than in the wild. Generally speaking, in the wild, you have the opportunity to capture the things that you encounter. If we had Pokeballs, that would be the case, but since we don't, we can't. The Pokemon that you encounter in the wild is determinate based on what route you're in, or like if you're in a cave or a forest or something like that. It's by location. So if there's something you want... Oh, we get Razor Leaf at level 6? That's pretty good. Anyway. It's so... Jeez, okay, so random encounters happen when you're walking through tall grass. That's kind of the joke, is that anywhere there's tall grass, there's Pokemon. If you're in a cave, anywhere you walk on the ground, you have a chance for wild encounters. Later on, we will gain the ability... Why did I use Tackle when I have Razor Leaf? Later on, you will gain the ability to traverse water, and you can find water-type Pokemon on the water, that kind of deal, like fish Pokemon, that kind of story. There's a lot of forests in Pokemon, generally speaking. A lot of caves, a lot of forests, a lot of tall grass, let's put it that way, and a lot of water. Not nearly as much water in this one as in Ruby and Sapphire, though. That game's kind of infamous for having all of the water in the world. This guy's just kind of chilling out, doing whatever, and we're just going to keep moving on. There is a way to progress through this route without encountering any grass at all, actually, I believe, but here we have an odd tree. It's an apricorn tree, but there's nothing for me to put the apricorn in. I don't have... Apparently I need a special apricorn case now in this game. In the original Gold and Silver, you did not need that, but that's alright. So here we are, we're through Route 1 and into Cherry Grove City. And this random old man is going to stop us. Well, I mean, in this context, yes, I guess I'm a rookie trainer, but in reality, no, I'm not. Why does Chikorita look like a lump? Like, it's supposed to have, like, some semblance of a face. I know, that's kind of weird. At any rate, I'll try to go as slow as possible, but he's wearing running shoes. He's very spry for an old man, apparently. So this is the Pokemon Center. You walk in, you put your Pokemon on the counter, they heal them all for free anytime you want. This is the Pokemart. As you can tell by the rotating sign, this is where you go to buy stuff, Pokeballs, potions, that kind of deal. This way goes to the next route, which is Route 30. The reason why the first route we encountered is Route 29 and not, like, you know, Route 1 is because it's actually a continuation of the route numbering from the first games, Red and Blue. And there's a reason for that, but we'll get into that much later. And he's very fast. We're having trouble keeping up here. And here we are. This is his house. Good effort keeping up with me. So he gives us running shoes. He's not giving us his shoes. Thankfully, he's giving us brand... Who carries a brand new pair of shoes to give to random people? I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so we get shoes. These running shoes will help us move a lot faster than our current walking speed, which is nice, because this is normally as fast as you're allowed to walk, but if I just turn on the running little button there, now we go a heck of a lot faster, which is nice. I don't think it works indoors. Maybe in certain places, but not all of them. Oh, it does work indoors. Alright, maybe it's not every place indoors it works, but in this one it certainly does. At any rate, we're going to go ahead and talk to the Pokemon nurse lady behind the counter. I'm also a massive fan of the Pokemon Center theme. I don't know if that's, you know, an out there thought, but I like it a lot. Anyway, so we'll heal up our Chikorita for free to full health. It also restores status conditions, that kind of deal. That being said, I'm going to talk a lot more about the mechanics and about Pokemon in general in the next episode. I'm going to try to keep these around 20 minutes or so, since it's a little bit longer than a typical platformer or something like that, but it's not quite so long that I want to be spending a whole lot of time with it per episode. So, that being said, I'm going to call it right here, but I'll see you guys next time, and I'll talk more about this. I got a lot to say, trust me. So until that time, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're going to enjoy this series as much as I'm going to enjoy playing through it. If not, well, I got plenty of other stuff for you to watch, so go do that. At any rate, I will see you next time. This has been Seraphin. Stay classy, internets.